Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope you all are fine. Dear students, today we are going to read Oxford Progressive English, Unit number 3, page 62, and today's topic is The Great Fire of London. Students, the story starts after the fire had started at 2 o'clock in the morning. The fire had started in a shop of Pudding Lane. It was City of London, and the owner of shop was Mr. Frainer, the baker. In the starting paragraph, we are told that the morning rose with a mess of black smoke. The barrels of fuel and the winter supplies of tallow exploded into the air. People were running here and there, making attempts to put out the fire, but all was in vain. In the second paragraph, it is narrated that Lord Mayor inquired about the starting of the fire. Someone told that the foreigners, revolutionaries, had started the fire. Mr. Frainer was also asked about fire. He told that some arsonist had put on the fire. A Frenchman had been killed for being a foreigner. A lady who was wearing apron had been sprawled into the open drain. She was accused of having fireballs under her apron, which were actually chicks. Students, in third paragraph, the narrator tells that nothing could be done for the fire. At last the Lord Mayor had ordered to make a fire break so that remaining London could be saved. The soldiers with billhooks began pulling apart the streets. The householders screamed. There were prayers, abuses, and shrieks of children and adults. In the fourth paragraph of the lesson, the story writer described the hustle in that area. The watermen had mustered every boat of the city and were busy evacuating the families and goods downriver. The smoke had created the night at daytime. People were dying. The city was burning. But regardless of everything, the watermen were pitiless and demanding their fee from the people for taking them out of the fire. Many huge things, like furniture, were floating in the river. People were feeling safe in the river rather than outside. Children were in the mud up to their knees. Women were screaming. Men were rushing towards boats to bring their families to a safer place. And amid all this, pickpockets were playing the fortune on costly watches, silk handkerchiefs, unattended bags, and even on roll of cutlery. Students, in paragraph number 5, we are told about the jewelers of London during the Great Fire. The goldsmiths and silversmiths converged on the towers of London with their valuables. But were the towers safe then? No, not at all. The towers were toppling like trees. Booksellers hid into St. Paul's Cathedral with their stocks. And the story writer tells in sixth paragraph that the temperature rose extremely high that day. It seemed as hell had risen closer to the world. The ground was too hot to walk. At 8 o'clock on Tuesday, St. Paul's Church was seen burning with all the stock of booksellers. In the last paragraph of the lesson, we are told that outside London, in the parks, more than 1 lakh people huddled homeless with a few goods. The king himself organized relief supplies. He personally administered the building of homeless folk in churches and inns. Student, let's see the summary or main points of this unit. The story starts after the fire had started at 2 o'clock in the morning in a shop of Rainer, the baker, in Pudding Lane. Barrels of fuel exploded into the air. People began to bundle their belongings into the chests. Lord Mayor inquired about the beginning of the fire. People told foreigners, fire raisers, or revolutionaries had put on the fire. The baker was summoned to tell how had the fire started. He blamed some arsonist. A mob of people killed a French man for being foreigner. A woman sprawled senseless in an open drain. She was accused of having fireballs under her aprons, while it was chicks. The indecisive Lord Mayor gave permission for a fire break to be made. Goldsmiths and silversmiths converged on the Tower of London with their valuables. Many people moved on church. Church spires were toppling like trees. The booksellers of London stayed at St. Paul's Cathedral as a safe place for their stock. The temperature got very high. The ground was too hot to walk on that day. Outside London, in the parks, more than 1 lakh people huddled bewildered amid the few worldly goods they had managed to save. The king organized relief supplies and administered the building of homeless in churches and inns. Students, I'm sure you have enjoyed the lesson. Thank you so much for being with me.